So for our third video, I thought I would cover some basic knife skills. So the first thing I'd like to show you is how to hold a knife. I see lots of people holding knives one of two different ways, and both ways are not the proper way to hold a knife. So I'm going to show you the two wrong ways before I show you the right way. First of all, I see lots of people holding a knife like that, and that might seem logical because it's a handle, right? So you grab it just like a hammer or anything else with a handle, but it actually gives you very little control because the center of gravity of the knife is actually right there at the bolster. So you'll see the knife will kind of balance on my finger. Well, in theory, it would balance on my finger right there at the bolster. So when your hand's back here, your hand is entirely behind the center of gravity of the knife, which really doesn't give you a lot of fine control. You also don't have a lot of control this way because your wrist is very stiff. The other wrong way I see people carrying or holding their knife is with their finger on top. So I see this very commonly, probably even more commonly than the other incorrect grip. And this isn't ideal because it really doesn't give you, again, it doesn't really give you a lot of control in this way. So it throws your blade off balance, so you're gonna have no control in this direction. So the proper way to hold a knife is actually by the blade, not by the handle. So you're gonna take your thumb and forefinger, you're actually gonna pinch the blade right there at the bolster. And then your other three fingers are actually just gonna loosely wrap around the handle to provide support. And so this is sort of your ideal chef's knife grip, and this is called a chef's grip or a pinch grip. And so this is the grip that we're gonna be working with. So next I'd like to show you the proper cutting motion. So when you cut, you never wanna guillotine your food, so you never wanna go straight up and down with it. You always want it to be a rocking and sliding motion, because that sliding of the sharp edge is what's going to actually do the job of cutting. And you want to do it in as gentle of a motion as possible, and gentle and fluid a motion as possible. So I want you to practice this motion. So what we're going to do, we're going to start with the knife tip on the board, and we're going to push down onto the board and forward at the same time. And then our next step is we're going to come up and back. So it's going to be this motion over and over again. Okay, so this is called a rock chop, and our chef's knife is specifically designed for this motion. So you can see with a Western chef's knife, we have a curve to the blade, and so it's specifically designed to rock gently on the cutting board. So this is a very natural motion. So the next thing I want to show you is how to hold your offhand. So this is very important in terms of safety because this is the hand that's more likely to get cut, right? So the hand that's holding the knife is probably not going to get cut because your hand is up here away from the sharp edge of the blade. But this hand is free to go ever, so this hand you really need to watch out for. And so this is going to be our guide hand. It's going to guide our food. So the way that we keep safe is we do what's called the claw. And so rather than having our fingers out where our knife can catch them, we actually tuck our fingers under so that the fingers are parallel to the blade. So the blade glides along your knuckles rather than going onto your finger and potentially cutting you. So I'm just gonna show you kind of how that works. So I'm gonna do some rock chopping on the celery, and I'm gonna use the claw hand as my guide. So I'm gonna do a few little cuts. And you can see I'm just using my offhand to push the food along gently as we go. So the other cutting motion that you might like to use in addition to rock chopping is what we would call a push cut. So celery is easy to rock chop because it's nice and low to the cutting board. But imagine if we had something thicker like a potato where we couldn't quite get our blade high enough to chop it. So in that case, we're still going to use that sliding motion, but instead of leaving the tip on the board, what we're going to do is we're actually going to lift the knife and we're going to slide forward as we go along. So you can see I'm still using my other hand as a guide, but rather than moving the food, I'm actually moving my fingers as I go along. And over time, you get really good at this, and you can go very quickly. And you know you're not going to cut yourself because your fingertips are curled under. So that's how you see professional chefs go super quickly with their knife, is because they keep that claw curled under, so they know that they're not going to cut themselves, and they know where the blade is at all times. All right, so I want to show you how to mince next. We have a couple garlic cloves here. These are a little bit sad because we're kind of scraping the bottom of the garlic barrel. So this is a Japanese knife. So like I said before, a lot of people are comfortable just bashing it like this. And I'll do it just for demonstration purposes. So you can see that giving the clove a little crush makes the peel come off pretty easily. But I don't like to do that with a Japanese knife just because they are a little bit more fragile. And luckily the Shun and Miyabi they actually come with this flat butt plate, and I've been told that that's what that's for, is bashing garlic. So you can actually use it in place of using the edge of your knife. And so you can see we have some nice garlic cloves that are out of the peel now, and they are a little bit crushed, but that's actually how I like them because they'll lay flatter on the board when you mince them. So I'm actually going to crush this one a little bit more. And I want to show you how to mince. So when you mince, what you're going to do, you're going to gather up what you're mincing into a little pile. You're actually going to place your offhand on top of the blade. And what we're going to do is we're going to do a super quick rock back and forth at different angles. And periodically we're going to stop to clean off our blade, to scrape our stuff back together. And we're just going to repeat that. And you can use the back of your blade. You never want to scrape with the sharp side of your blade because you will dull it. You either use a bench scraper or the back side of your blade or your hands to scrape that back together. But you can see as we do that, we're getting a finer and finer mince. And so that's how you mince garlic.